Another winter day, another modification going on my Honda Navi that was supposed to stay stock here in the Life of Birch climate-controlled garage, aka my living room. As a matter of fact, it wasn't even supposed to stay stock. I wasn't even sure if it was gonna live.
This thing is an absolute turd, and I didn't realize it until after I had already bought it. We should destroy it, sell it.
But anyway, today's modification is this $15 spring right here, which should make much more of an impact than you think out of something this small.
That's what she said.
Welcome back to Life of Birch. I'm Birch, and welcome to part 2 of the unintentional Honda Navi winter build series. And when I say unintentional, I mean literally, you saw at the beginning, this thing wasn't even supposed to live. I bought it, it was a piece of crap, it was doing all kinds of weird stuff, but last time we fixed it with the new variator and clutch. Not only did those parts fix the Navi, but it actually made it much quicker 0 to 40 and added 4 miles per hour on the top end. Now in that video, I had a couple comments mentioning the fact that with the new clutch setup, it was actually grabbing a bit later because the springs that were in the clutch were 2,000 RPM springs, meaning that the clutch didn't grab and make the Navi start going until 2,000 RPMs, and unbeknownst to me, they let me know that you could buy springs like this that change the RPMs that it grabs at to get the Navi to start going. So we got some of that today, which should make the response much crisper and much more responsive off the line. So I'm super stoked to see how it works out.
Oh my gosh, dude, okay.
All right, so these are the springs that we're working with. Like I said, they were only about 15 bucks. They were so cheap that I ended up getting both of them so we can kind of see which one works best. The springs that are in there now grab around 2,000 RPMs, and then the yellow ones will grab around 1,500 RPM, and the blue will grab at 1,000 RPM. Honestly, I think we'll start with the blue because I want it to be as responsive and crisp as possible, but I got the yellow ones because they were so cheap I couldn't pass it up, and I figured that if for some reason these don't work and it's grabbing too soon, then we can try those out. It might not make much sense now how these little springs make such a big difference, but once we get the clutch apart, you'll definitely be able to tell why. Now, they technically don't make these springs for a Navi, or at least it's not listed anywhere on the internet as being for a Navi, but shout out to Scooter Swap Shop for getting me hooked up with them and answering all my questions. You can actually just grab the ones for a GY6 150 and it'll work just the same. Scooter Swap Shop has been a huge help with all of this from start to finish, so shout out to them. You can grab both of these from Scooter Swap Shop. They're only about 15 bucks each, like I said, but you can also get 5% off with code LifeOfBurch in the description. All right, now install should be pretty straightforward. We just got to use these tools right here. Same deal as when we swapped out the variator and the clutch the first time. We just got our impact, our clutch grabber, some impact sockets, a socket set, and a screwdriver. And once again, a link to all of this will be in the description because I know not everybody has the clutch grabber tool and all that, but it's only like 11 bucks. Oh, and then you might notice up here, we got some gum Vans grips. Obviously that has nothing to do with installing these springs, but those were also only about 15 bucks and I'm dying to get them put on, so we'll probably do that in the process. All right, let's get this thing taken apart. Alright, so piece of cake, everything's all taken apart. If you bought a Honda Navi as your first bike, or you're using it as like the first bike that you want to learn how to work on things with, this is as simple as it gets, honestly. It only took about 8 minutes in real time to get that cover and just everything that you just saw taken apart. And rest assured, it did not take that little time just because I know what I'm doing. This is literally only the second time that I took that cover off. So gotta love how user-friendly these things are for first-time mechanics / first-time riders. If you saw the last video, you already know what it takes to get this cover off, but just a quick little rundown once again. You have 7 bolts around the cover. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7, which takes this bracket off. And that bracket is for the brake lines, by the way. But once that bracket's off, you'll see these 2 bolts behind it. Take all those off with an 8mm. Then you take your impact and zip off the clutch with a 19mm and zip off the variator with a 22mm. All right, so now that we have the clutch off, let's take a look at the springs that oh my God, dude, tripping over the table, AKA tripod. Let's take a look at the springs that I'm talking about. Just kidding. I thought the natural lighting would be enough for you to see the springs through there before we take it apart, but it's not. So let's use a 39mm to buzz this off with the impact and get the clutch taken apart. All right, now remember, you got that big old contra spring in there that's kind of keeping everything pressurized, if you will. So you got to keep your feet on it so it doesn't blow apart, and then just Shoosh, there we go. And then you'll see it kind of come apart with the spring, and this is what we need. So now you can see right in there those red springs, and that is what we're going to be replacing. So the idea is, in layman's terms, is that once the clutch starts spinning, each of these 3 little pads spins out from the momentum and ends up grabbing the bell housing right here, which causes the rear wheel to spin. So like I said, these springs in here are the right strength to where it's figured out that once it's spinning at 2,000 RPMs, these springs loosen up enough that these feet come out and grab the bell housing. So if you want it to grab sooner and take off at lower RPMs, what do? You got to put weaker springs in there so that as it spins, less momentum is required to bring these pads out to grab the bell housing. So these are the strongest springs, which is why it takes 2,000 RPMs to grab. Then you have springs that are slightly weaker here and grab at 1,500 RPM, and then even slightly weaker still here, which grabs at 1,000 RPM. So pretty simple in theory, but just pretty crazy that little springs like that could make such a big impact on a clutch. All right, so let's get this thing taken apart and drop in the 1,000 RPM springs. All right, so here we have the back side of the clutch, and to get to the springs, we have to take this plate off, and in order to do so, we just got to take a flathead screwdriver and put it in the grooves of these clips right here and kind of twist to pop them off. Sheesh. Maybe do that more gracefully than I did so that you don't lose them. All right, so with the clips off, this plate should just come right off like so. And now you get to see the springs that we're replacing. All right, now I don't have like an actual spring puller, so I think our best bet is this little hook thing right here. So let's see if we can actually get the leverage that we need. We can't.
12 failed attempts later.
You know what? Maybe we're supposed to take this entire back plate thing off, and that's how you get to it? That feels more right? Yeah, there we go. Oh, there we go. Easy peasy. So now that everything doesn't have the spring tension on it, now we can pop the springs out and put the new ones on. And I'm gonna lay the springs next to it just so that as I take them off, I remember which direction they're facing. So long side facing towards the base. And when I say long side, you can see that there's kind of like a longer hook here and a shorter hook here. So they're gonna face like that. So pop the old ones out and pop the new ones in. There we go. Had to kind of use the flathead to push it down in there. Super tight tolerances, but that is a good thing, so the springs don't blow apart, I suppose. All right, so she's all together with the new springs. These two went in plenty easy. Put up just a little bit of a fight, but what's normal. This one put up a hell of a fight. It would not go in there. I tried wedging it with these. I tried wedging it with that. I tried wedging it with this, and eventually it just came down to using the old screwdriver and friggin' just smashing it and trying to get it in there, and it worked. All right, so now that everything's all put back together, you'll look on the back side and you'll see the big holes here and then the smaller ones here with like the little rubber stoppers. And if you look at the plate that we took off, obviously these bigger holes go through there, and then these smaller ones right there, hopefully you can see it, go into the little rubber joints right there. All right, so we'll start sliding it down the big joints, and then as it approaches the bottom, you'll kind of have to use your brute force to pull out on it and make sure that it lines up with the little hole. All right, so that was hard to get on camera, but you can see that they're both lined up where they need to be all around, and then you just slide everything together. All right, so that one spring, like I said, was a total pain in the ass, but other than that, that was pretty straightforward. You got everything down. You can tell that it's down far enough because you can see that ridge. Hopefully you can see it. You can see that ridge on each 3 of the poles, and that's where the circlip goes. So as long as you see that, you know you push it down far enough. So now we'll just reverse what we just did by taking this plate and sitting it over top, and then double checking to make sure you can still see the circlip ridges and that everything's tight enough, and we look good to go. So now all we gotta do is take each 3 of these and push them back into place. All right, and all 3 are on, and of course, note to self, never push the screwdriver towards your finger because that hurt. So that's all there is to it. Now let's get this thrown back on, button everything up, and test it out. Okay, something not very tight happened. I thought I had everything buttoned up properly, and unlike last time when I started it up with the cover off to make sure everything was good, I felt confident enough to start it with the cover on, and as you can see, something was not lined up properly because the kickstart swung around and made a big grinding sound and I didn't record any of it. It doesn't seem good, so we gotta take the cover back off and figure out what we did wrong.
A few moments later.
Ooh, okay, good. Woo! Alright, thank God these things are so easy to work on because I got all that buttoned up in like 5 minutes.
Sheesh, this thing is freaking zippy now, dude. Oh my gosh. I obviously started recording as soon as I left my house, but I figured coming downtown is where you would get the best idea of how much better this thing is, because it's going to be lots more stop and go and slow speeds and such than riding around my neighborhood. So you'll really be able to get a feel for just, yeah, how great this is. So right off the bat, you can tell this thing grabs so much sooner. Before I had to like wind it out a bit before it started going, obviously, because it grabbed at 2,000 RPM instead of 1,000, and now it's almost like when you're at a stop, as soon as you hit the throttle, you can feel it starting to grab. I'm sure, obviously, just the springs didn't technically make it perform any better, like the clutch and the variator weights did. Those both made it, you know, quicker in acceleration and a faster top speed. This didn't really do any of that, but it made it feel much more responsive and much more, I don't want to say like performance oriented, but there's no lag when you start going. See, so we're at a stop. As soon as I get on it, we're off, you know? Before it was almost like lag time, like if you've ever driven a turbo car, it's almost like waiting for a big turbo to spool up and then it starts pulling. Same deal with this before, whether it was in stock form or with the upgrades, although it was more noticeable with the upgrades, you would roll on the throttle and have to wait until you felt that clutch start grabbing, and now it's like immediate. Now real quick before we keep talking about that, let's talk about the issues that we ran into with the install. Overall, it was super smooth. The first hiccup that we really hit was trying to get that third spring in, and for some reason it was giving us a hard time, but at the end of the day, I guess all you got to do is just really wedge it with your screwdriver if you come into that issue, and you should be good to go. Oh, I'm gonna get distracted, but look, right here's another good example where like anytime that I'm doing a rolling stop or a really slow turn, I've also noticed that before the bike would bog down enough that it's like the clutch wasn't still grabbing, so if you went slow enough around a turn, you would almost have to get on it and wait for the clutch to grab, and you wouldn't have power through the slow part of the turn, if that makes sense. But now you can get down to like 2-3 miles per hour around a turn and there's still immediate power when you need it. It's right there, you know? Oh, let's go, dude. So yeah, the spring was the first issue, and then the second issue that we ran into, which was the biggest issue, I would say, is when we went to start it up and the Kickstarter started spinning around, and then we opened it up and the bolt was loose. At first I thought that I just hadn't torqued that bolt down enough, and that could be the case, but as I was thinking back on it, I remembered that at one point I bumped the Kickstarter and it got out of place a little bit, so I pushed it around to make sure that it was like in the same spot so that everything stayed congruent for the shot, and I think that's when like the cogs where the Kickstarter goes into the variator, I think that's when they got in the wrong spot, and then I tightened everything down and started it up, and it just kind of spun everything around. So essentially, as long as you don't spin the Kickstarter around as you're doing the install, you should be fine. But like I said, these things are so freaking easy to work on that all I did was pop the cover back off and fix it, and then pop it back on, and it was like a maximum of like 10-15 minutes to fix it. All right, so we'll do a rolling stop here and see how like as soon as I get on it, it starts going, and we'll do another one here, slow down, and then immediately the power's there, whereas normally it'll bog down and like as you're mid-turn you won't have any power there, and that's not a good situation to be in, especially because like I would be practicing or like showing Nina how to practice slow speed maneuvers on this, and it was weird because you're trying to do slow speed maneuvers, but say that you're doing a really slow U-turn or something like that, it's like you have to stay partial throttle the entire time so that the power is still there, but now you don't because the power is always there. It's just like so freaking zippy, man. It's nuts. So I guess if you ask the question, is this the best $15 I spent on my Navi? The answer is absolutely hell yes. The variator and the clutch are great, and they definitely add the acceleration and the top speed, but the springs really tie it all together so that it feels nice and crisp and responsive when you're going from a dead stop or taking a super slow turn like this where the power is just already already there and you're not waiting for the clutch to grab once you get up to 2,000 RPM. Oh, and then also look at the grips. Look at how freaking cool they look. Aren't they awesome? There was one issue that I ran into with those also, and that is that I did not realize that right here, the stock throttle tube has plastic inside the flange. So in order to get the grip to slide all the way on, I had to take the Dremel and grind that plastic bit down. And even then, I didn't get it as smooth as it needed to be, so it took some coercing to get it on. But grips are nice and simple. If you guys haven't seen my trick before, essentially you just cut it off with a knife, and then you spray some hairspray inside the new grips and on the new, or not new bars, but on the bars. What the hell? What is this? What's going on? Oh man, gotta tighten that down now too. What the hell? But yeah, cut the grips off and then use hairspray inside of the grips and on the bars / throttle tube, and it'll slide right on, and then the hairspray will evaporate, and it essentially turns into glue once it does that, so your grips aren't going anywhere, and they look freaking great. And these were only like 16 bucks also. So you're talking between the springs and the grips, I spent like under 40 bucks including shipping. So absolutely worth it if you're looking for a cheap mod that really changes the Navi. I don't know if these springs can go in your stock clutch. I doubt they can, but if you already have the upgraded clutch and you want to make your bike that much better, the springs are a no-brainer. And if you want to make your bike look cooler and have comfier grips and be the cool guy with the van stuff, then obviously do that too. All of this is from Scooter Swap Shop. I'll leave a link in the description for literally everything that I've put on this: the clutch, the variator, the grips, and the springs. These are the 1000 RPM springs, by the way, and they're working great, nice and crisp. You can do the 1500 if you want it to wind out a little bit and give yourself like a little bit of a grace period, but I would say just go for the 1000 RPM one straight off the bat, because these are freaking great. I mean, like, watch this. Woo! Immediate power, baby. Immediate power. All right, well, I doubt that it will make any difference because, like I said, it didn't actually add to the acceleration or top speed. It just helped with like how responsive it is and how quickly it grabs. So I doubt that it will change anything, but let's round things out with one final speed run, just like we did last time. We'll do a 0 to 40, a 0 to 50, and a top speed run to see if it got any better or if it got any worse. Who knows? And then we'll get out of here. Okay, I am confident this will not do as well as last time just because it's windy and I could feel myself getting thrown around, but let's see. Ready, go. Holy crap, it actually beat the 0 to 40 by frickin' a half second. Oh my gosh, dude, okay. I thought it wouldn't do anything, but this is the best 0 to 40 and best 0 to 50 we've ever had. Holy crap. All right, so this is where we start going uphill a little bit so it slows down, but yeah, so I think the last time that we went, the best 0 to 40 that we did was 9.9 seconds, and the best 0 to 50 was like 35 or something, so we just smoked both of those best times. This is incredible. Oh, it's green. Let's keep rolling and see if we can get a new top speed. 56. Ooh, if we had more room to go, I think we could have got better than 56. Well, if that's not enough proof for you that if you have a Navi you need to do these modifications, then I don't know what is. Between the clutch, variator, and the new springs, we spent, I think, about 320 bucks all in, and we took the Navi from a top speed in stock form of 52 to a new top speed of 56, and I forget how much we improved the 0 to 40 and 0 to 50 by, but I'll put them right there. Either way, it's freaking crazy impressive for only spending 300 and something bucks. So yeah, anyway, like I said, Scooter Swap Shop is the absolute spot to get all of this from, and I think that's gonna wrap this one up. This thing is a freaking blast. Go ahead and get yourself some of this. Shout out to the Patreon members for making all of this possible and keeping me rolling through the cold of winter, although today we are blessed by a 50-degree day. Love you guys. Catch you on the next one. Peace.
Oh, so basic. Hope you play this. Damn, I prayed it. Nice song and I became this. Oh, souls fake it. Paid those placements. Fuck shit. And I'm still waiting on the brighter days. Been a minute, been rough many times more. And I'm kicking rocks to a sky of gray. Praying hard, talk to me before I'm done for.